Hey friends, and welcome to the channel. I'm a big fan of Dr. Mike. If any of you follow Dr. Mike, let me know in the comment section below. And I saw that last week he uploaded a video on how doctors shop for healthy groceries. I thought this would be a really fun video to react to together and for me to share my own insight as a dietitian nutritionist. And for those of you new to the channel, hello and welcome. My name is Katie. I'm a registered dietitian and personal trainer. So welcome to the channel. We talk about realistic and sustainable healthy habits on this channel. So if that interests you, consider subscribing for more videos like this one. All right, so without further ado, let's pull up the video.
We're gonna go shopping and I'm gonna show you everything you need to know that a doctor looks for when they go grocery shopping. Come on. Let's start the most important aisle, produce. Remember, I always say plant-focused diet is the way to go. And look at the fresh produce. Like I wanna go to town on these strawberries. For me, my breakfasts a lot of times contain yogurt and berries. Why berries? Rich in vitamins, rich in antioxidants, not a lot of sugar. If you compare it to a pear, a banana, my go-to ones just for variety of taste really, strawberries, raspberries, and one of the most antioxidant-rich fruits out there, blueberries.
All right, I'm gonna stop him there for just a second. Now, I do totally understand that Dr. Mike's intentions are positive. I don't think he means any ill will by this comment, but I do worry a little about commenting on how high of sugar certain fruits are compared to others, just because it sets us up for thinking, oh, well, am I bad for having a pear? Is a banana bad for me? And that's where we get a lot of the misinformation about fruits and stuff like that you often hear. I hear way too much on social media that bananas are bad for you and other high sugar fruits are bad for you. And that's not the case. Not saying that he was saying that by any means, but just keep in mind when you go to the store next time that no matter what fruit you pick, most likely it's gonna be high in antioxidants and it's gonna be high in fiber, which are both really great things for your diet.
I see a lot of people make mistakes when it comes to mold on their berries. If you see one berry that's moldy, just throw that one out, the rest are still fine.
See, what you want to do is get frozen berries and vegetables that you could use in your smoothies. A lot of people think freezing berries can lower the nutritional value, but we haven't found that to be quite true. So load up on those frozen berries.
Yes, and actually we found that frozen berries and frozen fruits actually retain their vitamin and mineral status more than fresh berries and fruits. And that's usually because they're freezing them at peak ripeness, which make them really good options for those of you who might be like me and sometimes your fruits and veggies can, go bad pretty quickly.
I'm going to include, obviously, along with some turkey, some green beans. This is a great low sodium food. They're rich in vitamin K. There's fiber content in here, the type of fiber that actually helps you lower your LDL cholesterol. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I have slightly elevated LDL cholesterol. So we're getting some green beans today. That's absolutely a must. Normally, I like to buy my greens loose. When you're cooking just for yourself, the proportions matter. The amount you buy matters. You don't want all of it to spoil and just be thrown out. But because we're preparing for a party, I need my greens to be pre-packaged. And I really want to focus on spinach, kale, arugula, romaine as the base of my salad. Some people like using iceberg lettuce. While that is rich in folate and vitamin A, I do say that the other ones tend to be a little bit more nutritious, have more value. I think you could get a mixture like this where you get baby spinach and arugula. This has been washed. It's ready to go. It's gonna make my life a little bit more simple.
Yeah, so your leafy greens are definitely gonna be higher in vitamin and mineral content. He is absolutely correct. Now, often I find that clients may struggle with the texture and sometimes the tastes of arugula, which is more peppery, and spinach and kale and stuff like that. And one thing that you can do if you are struggling with the flavor or the texture is start by having a 50-50 blend of iceberg lettuce and these new leafy greens that you want to try. It'll make it a lot easier to ease into having one day maybe a full salad with arugula and all the fancy greens that are technically higher in vitamin and mineral content. I know that may not be what you expect to hear from a dietitian, but making those small gradual changes in the right direction can help you to adapt to some of these healthy foods that you know are healthy, but in practice, they're harder to actually get in than you thought.
There's some doctors out there that claim tomatoes are unhealthy or cause problems with your gut, and this is largely untrue for the huge majority of people. This has only 2 grams of sugar in half a cup, despite it tasting sweet. With vitamin C, potassium, folate, like just so much nutrition. I just wanna
That's what I was talking about earlier with certain vegetables and fruits being demonized because they're slightly higher in sugar. It's like they're still really amazingly healthy for you, and we have tons of studies to prove it to be so.
Speaking of Thanksgiving-esque foods, sweet potatoes are the way to get your complex carbs in. You just have to be careful if you are monitoring your caloric intake. This could be a high-calorie food if you eat a lot of them. You get 4 grams of protein, 6.6 grams of carbs,
769% the daily nutrition of vitamin A, of vitamin C 65%, manganese 50%, vitamin B6 29%, potassium 27%, copper 16%, niacin 15%.
If we're talking about nature's multivitamin, sweet potato, great choice.
Are sweet potatoes really that high in calories? I mean, compared to what is what I want to know. So I just looked it up, and a cup of cubed sweet potatoes is 114 calories. Again, I think this is totally well intentioned, but I just want to say that relative to certain things, I don't think that it's necessary to like label sweet potatoes. All right, apparently the string lights can't hang today, so we're just working with the lighting situation. This is kind of a new YouTube setup, so I haven't quite gotten everything figured out just yet. My bad.
My nighttime snack. And I know a lot of people laugh when I did the video and I said, why are you throwing out the kiwi skin? It's absolutely true. If you wash them, eat it with the skin, you're gonna be boosting the fiber intake really significantly. I find for myself that kiwis help me fall asleep better at night. There's some scientific proof to this. It's a little weak, but for me, anecdotally at least, it's worked quite well. And again, lots of vitamins, lots of minerals.
Super cool. I did not know that about kiwis and sleep, but I'll have to look into it. Funny story, when I first was introduced to mangoes, which are one of my favorite fruits by the way, I did not know that you were not supposed to have the skin, so I ate like the whole thing. Besides the seed, of course. But this is true for most fruits. A lot of the nutrients and stuff that we really look for is gonna be in the skin. So if you can tolerate kiwi skin, awesome. I know there are some kiwis that are like less hairy, so of course if you don't want like that weird texture, I don't blame you. But there are some types of kiwis that are smoother on the outside, so it's a lot more tolerable to actually have the skin.
Before going food shopping, make sure to make a list and stick to that list. Number one tip I give to parents is if you don't have junk food in the house, the kids aren't gonna eat it.
Sorry, I feel like I'm stopping this a lot, but I have to say something. I feel like there's this big misconception that it's this horrible thing to ever have anything that's not super nutrient dense every so often. And also number 2, that never having these foods in your house helps you eat less of them. Now, I want to break that down a little bit and explain because I know people are going to start freaking out at me in the comments. I think that when we never have any types of unhealthy junk foods in the house, then it makes it really hard to truly learn to self-regulate with these types of foods. I'm not saying go and stock up on all the candy and junk food possible, because I do think that that sets you up for failure when you're trying to eat healthier, because what's in your pantry, you're gonna end up eating. But what I will say, and from the perspective of a dietitian and someone who has struggled with an eating disorder in my teenage years, is that it's really truly better for you and your long-term relationship with food to learn how to have a variety of all types of foods and to self-regulate with some of those foods that maybe you want to have less often. So what I typically do when I myself go to the store is kind of do the 80-20 rule. Most of the time I'm going to focus on the whole foods, the healthy options, the whole grain stuff. But 20% of the time, I'm gonna have some treat options and some foods that I love that maybe aren't totally nutrient dense, but that I wanna have on occasion. Again, this is not to say that you should just stock up on every junk food possible and never have healthy foods in your house. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you pick 1 or 2 treat options, maybe it's chocolate or maybe it's like a frozen pizza or something, you're not a failure and it's not a bad thing if you have something that's quote unquote less nutrient dense than your whole food options. You are a normal human being if you do that. I just wanted to normalize normalize that before we get back into the rest of the video, because I think it's just one of those things that's like, again, I think it's so well intentioned and I understand what he's saying, but at the same time, I think it is a little bit problematic to say just don't ever have any foods in the house. It's not just about the nutrition, it's also about the psychology. And the more we allow ourselves to be around these foods that we fear so much or that we feel maybe a little out of control of, the more we habituate ourselves to just having them in moderation versus an all or nothing attitude about them. All right, rant over. We'll get back into the video now.
When I think about sauces, I really try and think about the nutrients that are gonna slide into my foods. So for example, if I'm gonna be eating my morning eggs and I don't wanna increase the caloric intake of my eggs, Tabasco sauce gives you a lot of flavor without the calories. Literally 0 calories. It's important to know that depending on your condition, you could always go for varieties of certain foods. Like for ketchup, they have the no sugar added variety if you struggle with sugar issues, perhaps if you have diabetes, or the no salt added option if you have kidney problems, or if you're struggling with congestive heart failure. While there are some general rules about hyper-processed foods being unhealthy, foods are healthy or unhealthy depending on your current individual life, goals, medical conditions, and it needs to be individualized and tailored for you.
Yes, yes, yes. This is exactly why I love Dr. Mike. I think that it's so important to point out the nuance to nutrition. So what is healthy for one person may not be for another person. And it's important to note this because I think that sometimes in social media, we see that someone is on a keto diet or someone is on a low sodium diet. And that might be extremely important for that person if the person on keto has epilepsy, because keto is designed to help manage those symptoms and have less epileptic seizures. And someone with congestive heart failure may need to have low sodium ketchup or low sodium this and that because it's super important for them to manage their sodium levels, as opposed to someone who maybe is in a healthier body and doesn't really necessarily need to micromanage their sodium. There's so much nuance to nutrition, and if you want individualized support and recommendations, then I highly recommend seeing a registered dietitian to talk about that with them further. And if you're curious to learn what my recommendations are, I do have a couple of free masterclasses that you can join to learn more about nutrition and my personal philosophy with nutrition. And I also have my Mindful Muscles Academy program that you can learn more about in the description below.
There's a ton of salad dressings that are available for purchase. I like to kind of make my own with the most magical ingredients, and those are olive oil, extra virgin Greek olive oil. And I only say magic because of that cool transition. There's nothing really magical about this. It's just my preference when it comes to oils. Balsamic vinegar. Mix it in with the olive oil, it makes perfect salad dressing, adds flavor, adds kick. If it's a sweetener and it has carbohydrates in it, it's basically the same thing. So I try and go for the Manuka honey version. We actually use medical grade Manuka honey, not what this is. In medicine, when we're talking about wounds that are not responding to antibiotics, we use Manuka honey there. So I do try and put this in my tea if I'm not feeling great, but also just like a little drizzle on my yogurt in the morning that already has 0 grams of sugar added. I add it myself with a little bit of honey.
If you didn't catch that, he mentioned that honey and maple syrup and sugar are basically the same thing. They're all sugar and they all have similar carbohydrate content to them. Maple syrup and honey are gonna have more vitamins and minerals and antioxidants in them, but when it breaks down in your body, it is still a carbohydrate. Another great thing to have in moderation.
Great fibrous food here. You have soluble fiber, which does tend to keep you regular. And the big surprise here, 6 grams of protein in just 1/3 of a cup. Fiber, protein, win for me. Now, any doctor that's gonna tell you they don't enjoy a little bit of pie every now and then, I feel like they're not being honest with you. We're celebrating. It's okay to have some pie. Yes, there's sugar content, but there's great nutrients in here because it is a berry pie. So I try and find some kind of dessert that always has some added nutrition to it. And berries, that's a great way to boost the nutrition. For me, because this is a rare treat, it's occasional, it's not gonna make or break my healthy lifestyle. So I'm okay having this, especially if I have a small amount. And I don't want you deciding for your lifestyle if you're eating completely healthy or unhealthy based on one choice. It's about the general philosophy that you have when it comes to food shopping.
I absolutely agree, and I'm super glad that he brought this up, especially considering some of the other comments back earlier on in the video. Again, I think there's so much room for nuance with nutrition, and sometimes we get stuck in this all or nothing attitude with nutrition, like we're all in or we're just completely off the handle, just binging on junk food left and right. There's a happy medium, and like I said, I really love the 80-20 philosophy where you're incorporating foods that you love, and maybe in that 20% they're foods that are less nutritionally dense, but 80% of the time you're having whole foods and healthy options, whole grains, lean proteins, fruits and veggies as a priority in your healthy choices.
As I'm browsing through these aisles, I'm really impressed with the high quality and the amount of selection of healthy whole foods. Like even just walking here and seeing this spice rack and seeing how many options there are, it's awesome. For me, spices are nature's spice. There's no better way to say it. Because a lot of times we say, oh, healthy food is boring or doesn't taste good. But that's because we're not using spices. Remember, a lot of these spices are 0 or low calorie. They are nutritious. I even try to use spices like cinnamon in my morning yogurt just to add a little bit more flavor, or even in my coffee.
That's a really good point. I find that a lot of people, especially with like veggies and stuff like that, when cooking them, they find that they're bland and boring. And I'm gonna steal a quote from my friend Megan, who summarizes it perfectly, and I might butcher her quote, but if we treated veggies like we treat meat, then we would have so much less issues getting in our daily intake of veggies. When you're cooking veggies, use an air fryer. Use some healthy oils like avocado oil or olive oil. Contrast the flavors with lemon juice and lime juice, and like Dr. Mike said, add spices. Play around with different spices, even if you have no idea what to add. If all else fails, just add a ton of garlic and you'll be good.
When I think about bread, I think about maximizing nutrition from a very simple food. Now, this bread here has to have the first ingredient being whole wheat, not if you're gluten-free, of course. And I want the dietary fiber to be at least 3 grams. That's telling me that I'm in a good place. This one's exactly 3 grams. Because it has flax seeds and other seeds on it, you're getting a little bit of protein as well, 5 grams of protein, 14 grams of whole grains, and 520 milligrams of omega-3. You're making a usually non-nutritious food very nutritious.
Hey, get down. Jesus, it's a madhouse in here. I'm a really big fan of Dave's Killer Bread. The good seed bread is super amazing. What I will say is that the flax seeds that he mentioned on the outside, typically, unless you are breaking them down with your teeth really well, you're not gonna fully get the fiber from flaxseed that is whole. You want it to be ground. So whether or not you're actually getting that fiber from those excess seeds on the outside is for your gut to figure out, I guess. And like I said, Dave's Killer Bread is just killer. So whatever kind you get, they're all just really good choices and really high in fiber.
A lot of people like to talk about vitamin D and its importance to health, and I agree totally, but a lot of people overdo it with vitamin D supplements. I'm trying to find foods that have a good amount of vitamin D content, and sardines are the way to go. You know, some people make fun of me for eating sardines, but at night, if I'm hungry, I crack open a can and have some. Not only are you getting a serious protein boost, but you're getting omega-3s, vitamin D, 70% of your day's vitamin D in just 1 serving. That's 3 ounces of sardines. $2.79. If you wanna splurge a little bit and go for the $3.29, you're gonna get sardines and olive oil, which you know, I love olive oil. So again, very reasonable and very doable.
So I have to say, I haven't really had that many experiences actually eating sardines. I don't really know if I've ever actually had them, but they don't seem very appealing to me. So he's absolutely right. Sometimes we can overdo it with the supplementation of things, but it can kind of be difficult to get enough vitamin D in your diet. Now you can also get vitamin D from different sources that are not so freaky to some of us. I mean, I'll speak for myself, but sardines are probably never gonna be a big part of my diet. So you can get it from vitamin D fortified milk, vitamin D fortified orange juice. Cereals are often fortified with vitamin D as well, and you can get them from salmon and cheese and different stuff like that. So if you're low in vitamin, I wouldn't be afraid to take a supplement, but just don't overdo it. Check with your doctor and see where your levels are at and how much you actually need to supplement. I don't think you need to go any crazy amount, but even having like a 2000 IU supplement of vitamin D can help if you're experiencing things like seasonal depression and hormones that are out of whack. I know I did some vitamin D supplementation when I was really in the midst of like healing my hormones, when I didn't have my period for an extended period of time. So it can be good for some people. I think what he's just saying is don't overdo it and don't think that more is better, especially with supplements. That's really not the case.
Healthy diet. It's not something I recommend, but I found that a food that allows me to board eat and still be quite healthy and match my caloric intake is popcorn. And this sea salt and black pepper, game changer. Literally my favorite popcorn. Every friend that I let try this, they want it. And it's actually hard to find this flavor of Skinny Pop, so I'm glad they have it here in the Amazon Fresh store. So,
Dang, dude.
no, I need these. Don't judge me.
Well, congrats, Dr. Mike, to 10 million subscribers. Cheers to that. Let me know in the comment section below, what did you think of Dr. Mike's grocery haul overall? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and let me know in the comment section below what you'd like me to react to next. Hey. I really miss the YouTube days where I could have my cats in the shot, because in our last place, I always had to film upstairs. So your cat lady is super pumped. That, my friends, is Kovu, aka Bud. We got him and his name is Kovu, and I really liked it because it was from The Lion King 2 and it was just a pretty name. But we ended up just calling him Bud for some reason, and it was kind of like an inside joke. And so now we just call him Bud. He'll come and go.